Alessandra sat silently in the courtroom waiting room, holding the file that contained 13 years of her life. She was wearing a blue blouse and a pair of black pants, carefully chosen that morning, like a small armor to protect her from everything that awaited her. But there was no fabric, no makeup, no dignity that could truly prepare her for that moment. The room was crowded, but she felt alone. Around her there were couples whispering, lawyers checking papers, phones vibrating. But the loudest noise was that of her thoughts. She thought back to when it all began, the meeting with Ricardo, the evenings talking until late, the walks hand in hand with the promise of never leaving each other. They had built a life together, a small house but full of love, then the arrival of Ilaria, and 2 years later that of Marco. 2 wonderful children who were their strength and their light. But over time, Ricardo had changed. Not suddenly, not in one fell swoop, but little by little, like water that erodes stone. He had become distant, increasingly focused on work, increasingly absent even when he was physically present. The words between them had become cold, the caresses rare, the arguments frequent. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Alessandra had tried in every way to save the marriage. She had suggested couples therapy. She had asked for a sincere confrontation. She had waited patiently for him to return to being the man she had loved. But Ricardo had never wanted to question himself. Every attempt had turned into a fight, every silence into a wall. In the end, as much as it hurt, she realized she had to let him go. Not so much for her, but for their children. Growing up in a house where love had become habit and bitterness was not what she wanted for them. So, with shaking hands, she signed the separation papers. That day in court, she had only to formalize a decision already made with her heart. But nothing had prepared her for what was about to happen. Ricardo entered the room with a determined step. He was wearing a dark gray suit, his shirt well ironed, his hair carefully combed. But what was striking was his gaze, cold, distant, almost hostile. He didn't even give her a nod. He sat on the other side of the room as if he were there for a business case. When they called them inside, Alessandra felt her legs wobble. She braced herself by thinking about her children, about Marco, who had said, "Mom, you're strong," the night before, about Ilaria, who had drawn a house with 3 hearts and asked, "We'll be fine even if Dad doesn't live with us anymore, right?" They sat down in front of the judge. The atmosphere was tense but formal. Everything seemed to be going as planned. Division of assets, joint custody, school expenses. Until Ricardo's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client wishes to make an additional request. The return of all property acquired during the marriage, including those given to his wife and children. This includes furniture, appliances, electronics, toys, bicycles, and other valuables." An eerie silence fell over the room. Alessandra blanched. Her heart was pounding. She understood that Ricardo was angry. But this? He wanted the children's presents back? The computer they had given Marco for his birthday? The toy kitchen that Ilaria loved so much? Even her bags, her clothes, everything. The judge looked at him puzzled. "Mr. Ricardo, are you aware of the scope of this request?" He nodded, impassive. "Absolutely. I believe they are my assets, purchased with my salary. I do not intend to leave them to my ex-wife." Alessandra said nothing. She had no words. The pain she felt at that moment was unlike anything she had felt before. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was disappointment. Deep. The man she had built a family with, the one who had sworn to protect her, now wanted to humiliate her and use her children as tools. The hearing was adjourned. Alessandra walked out as if in a trance. People looked at her with pity in their eyes. Some commented in hushed tones, others shook their heads, but she heard nothing, only the sound of her heart breaking. That night, Marco approached her while she was preparing dinner. "Mom, is it true that Dad wants to take our things away?" Alessandra turned slowly. She looked into his eyes and understood that she had to stay strong. "No one will take away what really matters, love. Things can be bought, but love, that's what remains." In the days that followed, she tried to force herself to not think about the gratuitous malice of that request. But it was difficult, especially for the children who felt every tension. The following week, they showed up in court again. Alessandra, although shaken in spirit, was just trying to close everything with dignity. But that morning, something unexpected happened. Ricardo entered the courtroom visibly different, not in appearance, but in face. His eyes were lined, his gaze lowered. He no longer seemed the arrogant man of 7 days earlier. When the judge asked to confirm the requests, Ricardo stood up. He paused for a long time, then spoke in a broken voice. "Your Honor, I wish to withdraw every request I have made, and I want to apologize. I acted out of anger, out of wounded pride, but I have realized in these days how wrong I was. I cannot ask for the love, the memories, the trust back, and I cannot take away from my children what makes them feel safe. I do not want to be remembered like this." Alessandra felt a lump in her throat. Those words, they were sincere. They felt true. And maybe, for the first time in years, Ricardo was really looking at himself in the mirror. Outside the courthouse, he approached her. "I'm not asking you to forgive me, but I want to be a better father, if you let me." She stared at him for a few seconds, then replied, "You don't have to prove it to me, but to Marco and Ilaria. If you do it, I won't stand in your way." Months passed, and Ricardo kept his promise. He began calling his children every day, took them for walks, helped them with their homework. He was present, truly. Alessandra, too, found her balance over time. She opened a small educational center, a dream she had always put off. One day, Ilaria wrote an essay for school. "My dad once made my mom cry. Then he understood, and now he does everything he can to make us laugh. He's not perfect, but he's learning, and I love him." When Alessandra read it, a tear fell. But this time, it wasn't pain, it was peace. Because life, even when it seems to crumble, can mend the deepest wounds. And sometimes, even the most absurd request can become the beginning of a rebirth. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.